Alright, I think I'm going to do just a quick tutorial here to help our forum member out fix a few of these things in his rig. So the first thing I want to do is do Control Tab, and that's going to take me to pose mode. And if I didn't say this before, whenever you see these bones and I have them selected and they're blue in color, you'll know that I'm in pose mode, and if they're orange in color, then I am in edit mode. And also if you see that it's yellow, that would be object mode here. So and I can see that we've got applied locations, rotations, and scale on that armature object itself, and I'm just going to go ahead and lock everything because we don't ever really need to manipulate that armature object in object mode after we've added our first bone to it, actually. So we'll take care of that. And I noticed that you started going through and locking some of these. I'm just going to finish this one off here. Oops, and now all of our meshes are locked and we can't accidentally move them in object mode. But let's get to this armature here. So Control Tab into pose mode, and the first thing I want to do is do sometimes you have to do that multiple times to select everything, and Alt G, R, and S, and that will clear all of our poses out, and that just makes sure that we're not seeing any weird movement because of having a rig control accidentally moved a little bit. So when we're tabbing back and forth to check these bone positions here. So we need to get rid of some of this shifting yet, and kind of narrowed it down to where we need to work, and I'm just gonna select only the second layer here, so we only have to worry about looking at our armature. And I'm also going to do Z to go into wireframe, and that's going to show us where our problem is here. And some of these bone positions are for in edit mode here. I just tabbed in edit mode. Once again, orange for edit mode. Some of these bone positions here are just a little bit off, so I know you probably can't see the one I got selected. Alright, there we go. I'm going to do Shift S, cursor to selected, and that's basically this backbone here. I had the head of that bone selected, and I am going to make sure that I select everything in this little corner here. Actually, this bone right here is, I think it was probably put in there by accident, called Shin L.001. So let me just actually delete this one. So I'm going to select it and do X, delete bone, and I still have X-axis mirror on. So if I do Control Z to undo that, when you have X-axis mirror on and delete a bone or add a bone, it'll do it on the other side too. Well, actually it won't do the add bone unless it's but it will delete it. So X, delete the bone, and then we don't have the extra shin bone. And now I want to make sure that I've got all of these things selected, and I'm just holding Shift and trying to click on them all, and then Shift S, selection to cursor, and that pops everything right into alignment there. And one of the other, now we're getting less shifting, or we should be getting less shifting here. Alright. One of the other things that was slightly out of alignment was this lower handle bone here. So let's go back to edit mode, and if I select any of these other bones, and let's look at our head position on X axis, and it's 0.111, and that's true for almost every other bone that's in this location down here, and except for well, the shin will be the tail, so that's 111 there. But if we select this handle bone here, it's off by 2 points, so 0.113, and we can just use I'm going to select one of these other bones and do Control C to copy that value, and then I'm going to select that handle bone again, and Control V to paste it in the X position, and Control V for both the head and the tail X positions. So sometimes when you're pasting things like this, X-axis mirror won't actually fix it across to the other side, but we can do that by just typing any transform. I'm going to use G and then enter, and the other side will pop into alignment if it's not already there. And I noticed that this bone right here is just slightly, if we look at our Z values here, there's a slight difference. That means our head and our tail value are canted up a little bit. If I just select that and do Shift Z 0, we can straighten that right back out. And I think, oops, we need to actually back that up. Let's not do that. Let's just copy the head value here, which is 0.08. So Control C to copy, and then just Control V to paste it in the tail. Make sure by scaling it like that, and I think I might have moved that, so we'll use that second option instead. Now just tabbing back and forth, I don't see any shifting anymore, so that should solve the shifting. And I am also in your latest version here, so but since I'm in here, I'm going to talk about this pull target bones out here. Once again, I've got x-axis mirror on. You can see that our y value is up, and I actually did a bad job of explaining this. What I meant to say in my other video was we can't, the x-axis or the y-axis is always going to be between the head and tail positions for any bone. So wherever your head is and wherever your tail is, that is going to be the direction of your y-axis. So right now, when we're in pose mode, and we do, if I just type GZ, I'm going to move that bone up on the world Z-axis. But you can see the sense that the bone's y-axis is up. That's the value that's getting applied here. So that's what we're always doing in pose mode, is basically using, that's the values you're going to see is the local values of that bone. So even though I'm doing GZ to move up in the world Z-axis, because this is aligned with the y-axis up, that's where our values are showing up. So let me just clear that out with Alt-G. And whenever I've got a bone like this, especially a location bone, it's a location controller, I always want to try to align these axes with the world. And you know, when you add a new bone, if I just add one here, it's always going to be the y-axis up. So let me just delete that out really quick. But for this, I just want to select that head, and I'm going to do 3 to go to side view. And I know you can't see my selection, but RX -90, and then I'll flip that bone, and now we can see that the Z-axis is up and Y is going with the world, and X-axis is going also with the world. And like I said in my other video, maybe you haven't got to that point yet, this display option is actually, I think it's wrong. It should be at the head of the bone to make more sense, or to be a little less odd, I guess. So now that I've got that flipped down, also what I like to do usually is have this bone centered directly. If I select the shin here, I want it directly on where that knee is, so I can use the values from the shin bone and look at the X value is 0.109, and I can just select our target. Oops, I actually should have copied that. I'm going to do Control C to copy that from the shin bone, and then I'm just going to paste it here and to our tail. And now we're aligned on the X, but now we want to also move it up in the Z, so we can look at our Z value from the shin, and then it's 0.777 at the head position. So let's copy this with Control C, and then once again we'll select that and paste that Z value to the head and tail, but with Control V, and that popped it up. And you can see this other side didn't come up with it, and that's what I was talking about earlier, with sometimes X-axis mirror won't flip that up there. But I can just do G, enter, and the other side goes with it, and it's now aligned. So if we're looking at front orthographic view, now we've got that pull target right at the center of that knee position. And pull target can actually be a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to select the tip and do G, Y, and drag it down just a hair. So let's look and see if we've fixed all of our shifting issues here by tabbing back and forth. and it looks like, no, there's a slight roll. Looks like there's a slight roll in that bone, so I think it's probably due to no, that's not our reason. I think it's just maybe because this isn't straight. So let me actually select this bone and get our X position. Oh, it's actually canted, so we can tell that our X position from our head and our tail is just slightly out. So how do we want to do this? Oh, let's copy the actual tail position of this one. Control C, and then Control V, and Control V, and now our leg is completely straight up and down. And now we shouldn't get any shifting whatsoever. Everything should be aligned very nicely. So hopefully that solves everything for you. Let's just go back into, take a look at these the mesh here. I know you had a question about when I was doing this edge loop selection. You don't have to be in edge. You can be in either edge or vertex select, but what you need to do when you're holding Alt to get a loop is you need to click, if you're in vertex select, you need to click in between the two vertices to get that. If I click in between these two vertices, it's going to select this loop. So just holding Alt. And the other issue, I think, if you select two in a row by holding Shift and then do X dissolve vertices, you're going to get invalid boundary, and that's why I failed to mention it and I apologize for that. I failed to mention it in my other video. That's why I was skipping every other loop when I was dissolving those. Whoop. Why am I getting that? That doesn't seem right. Maybe I had something else selected. Let me select these again, and X dissolve edges. Alright, there we go. So that's why I was skipping every other loop, because like I said, you can't, if you select two adjacent loops and then do X dissolve edges, you're going to get that invalid boundary. So I was skipping every other one, and like I said, I don't think I mentioned, I might have mentioned it later in the video, which could have been a little too late. So I hope that clears some things up and we get your armature all set up. And I'll talk to you later. Good luck.